In case you missed it, here's Dave and Cheryl's favorite moments of the week.
So when I grew up, we had a little intercom system in the house that one of my brothers had bought. So there was a main thing on the main floor, and then there were wires that would run upstairs, wires that would run down into the basement, because my dad often was working down there on something, where you could just press the button, dinner's ready. My mom would do something like that, right? Well, this is peak parenting in 2023, and a great example of that. A single mom in Chicago needed her 11-year-old to take some stuff out of the freezer before she got home and defrost it. Well, she had to track her down inside of a video game to make it happen.
So the woman, her name is Cha-Cha, and her daughter is Mira. And apparently they both played this video game called Roadblocks through that app, a platform where you can play lots of different video games within it. And their avatars are friends so that they can see when each other are online. So when Mira wouldn't pick up the phone, her mom jumped on Roadblocks and saw that she was in the middle of playing a video game. Kind of like The Sims, it's called the Berry Avenue. So she popped into the game and sent her a direct message telling her to take the lasagna and garlic bread out of the freezer for dinner. So it would have time to defrost, and it worked. Mira did it.
Yeah, Mira was actually driving a car in the game when she got the message, but pulled over to run to the fridge. Well, you got to be safe, right?
Yes, of course.
She said she posted the screenshots to show people what you have to go through to get your kids' attention these days.
Well, she tried calling and texting her, but, a lot of these video games are pretty, they put the headphones on, the big headphones with the mic. So you're in the zone. You're maybe not seeing that your phone is going off. So how do you get her attention? And you go into the video game she's in.
Well, it's just like, texting your kids, when they're in the house instead of yelling your head off, trying to get a hold of them. It's what we do in 2023.
And now it's time to put some good in your morning. The good news brought to you by Almar Home Improvements. 519-351-5666.
I mean, we talk about resolutions. Is that a thing? Do you resolve to, eat healthier, live a better life? Well, a 34-year-old from England, her name is Jess, just finished up a full year of trying one new thing every day.
That's such a cool resolution. Apparently during the pandemic, she was feeling a little overwhelmed. And so she thought trying a new thing every day might help. And she says she's now the happiest she's been in about a decade. So some of the new things she tried last year were bigger things, like she tried golfing, paddleboarding, lockpicking. But then, some fun things like streaking, line dancing, learning her first magic trick, running up a down escalator, and trying her first espresso martini.
I wonder if anyone dared her. I dare you to try this because you've never done it before.
Well, I wonder if I was me, I'd open it up to friends and family and be like, send me your suggestions. What's something new I can try? Especially say I'm not much of a runner, but you're into running. Maybe I join you for a run one morning because that's not something I would normally do.
That's a great idea and a great attitude to have. A dog in Indiana by the name of Misty ran off on Christmas Eve, and it was pretty cold that day there. So her owners didn't think she'd make it, and they posted on Facebook and in their community, and people helped to track Misty down.
Some people brought their drones out, used that to help search for the dog. Others sent security footage from their cameras on their houses. And finally, a guy about 10 miles away left food out and helped to catch her 5 days later.
Her owners threw a thank you dinner recently, invited everyone who helped out.
I'd be driving in the country and I would pass cars with friends and people I hadn't even met. They were all doing the same thing. They'd roll down the window. Are you looking for the dog? Yeah, looking for the dog.
And they had little squeaky toys, and they would squeak it and yell our name, and we're like, we don't even know these people. Everyone just comes together and helps you, and it doesn't matter, stranger helping stranger.
I mean, if you've lost a pet, you want to reach out to, CK Animal Rescue, PAR, that kind of thing. But I think there's a Facebook group called Lost Pets of Chatham-Kent.
Yeah, and a lot of people will post pictures and details up there, and it's just a great way for, if people are in that area, to be on the lookout.
And now it's time for...
1, 2, 3, 4.
It's random.
Is that a fact?
4 random facts.
Do you ever have buyer's regret or buyer's remorse?
Oh, all the time.
Same. I'll buy something, especially anything over maybe $100 or $200, and I'm going, oh, do I really need that? Overpaying for something actually activates the part of the brain associated with guilt and pain, because you just don't want to give up money.
That's why we feel so guilty about it. Okay, makes sense. Did you know 2/3 of the lawyers in the world live in the U.S.?
That's a startling stat.
Oh, they will sue you for anything over there.
2/3. Only 3 countries in the world are officially not allowed to sell Coca-Cola. North Korea, Russia, and Cuba. Although it sounds like you can get it in Cuba, but they don't ship it from the U.S. and it doesn't get marketed.
Yeah, so when I went there like years ago, and you could get Coca-Cola, but it was always in a glass bottle, and they were like, oh yeah, it comes from Mexico, from the bottling plant there. We can't get it from the U.S., obviously. So I don't know if it's still that way, and apparently costs a lot more than sort of the local Coke that they have.
And probably they look the other way in certain circumstances.
And finally, up until 1997, the Joy of Cooking cookbook included recipes for armadillo and stuffed boar's head. I'm going to have to go check my Joy of Cooking cookbook when I get home. I think mine's from 1997, so maybe I have the first edition that doesn't have that.
Yeah, it makes me... So what do you think with armadillo? Like little lemon? Maybe some
garlic?
Yeah, a lot of garlic. It's your 4 random facts.
Today's
1, 2, 3, 4.
4.
So random.
Give the public the facts.
4 random facts.
What do you think the world will look like in 2123? I think there'll be a lot more robots, whether there's home robots to, help you with cooking or things like that. I don't know if that's going to work out well in the end because we've all seen the Terminator. But I think the world will definitely be a different place. Well, 100 years ago, a bunch of people made predictions on what they thought life would be like in 2023.
Yeah, someone actually went through some old newspaper articles from 1923 to see what the experts were predicting for this year. And some of the things have come true. For example, having airline traffic all the time. Yeah, people flying everywhere. The U.S. population would top 300 million. And being able to talk to someone in real time through your watch. Yeah, thanks to smartwatches.
But here's a few that haven't happened that are pretty fun. People will work a maximum of 4 hours a day.
No, you still work, 8, 10, 12 hours, whatever it might be. You've just become more productive, and the work that would have taken you 8 hours before now takes you 4.
Yeah, they said electricity would somehow make that possible for people to only work a maximum of 4 days. Now, you got to remember, in 1923, less than 50% of U.S. homes had electricity.
Yeah, but think about it. Electricity has made so many more things possible and more productive, like the internet. How about this? Back in 1923, they predicted there would be no more ugly people this year. I think, Dave, you and I are proof that that is not true.
Come on.
They thought beauty pageants would become obsolete because you'd never be able to pick a winner.
I bet you they were wondering about genetics, maybe. That you could influence somehow, how your baby would look. Hair color, eyes, all that kind of stuff. You can kind of do that now, can't you?
Or what, that no one would want to reproduce with an ugly person? Is that the...
Or just you influence how the baby's going to come out.
I don't know. I've seen a couple of beautiful actors in the past have babies, and they're not beautiful as you think.
Genetics is a funny thing.
Yes.
Women will paint their teeth black to be fashionable. Well, instead, a lot of people whiten their teeth now.
Yeah, completely opposite. Another prediction for 2023 from 100 years ago, that gas would be replaced by radio waves. Guess they thought you'd somehow be able to have radio waves power everything.
Turn up your radio in the car a little bit louder. Turn CFCO up a
Make
bit
you go
louder.
faster.
See how that works. Hey, the average life expectancy they thought would be 100 years old, and other experts said 300. Now, the average in the U.S. back then was just 57 years old. Now it's around 76. The oldest living person set to turn 119 next month.
Another prediction, they thought flying from Chicago to Germany would take 18 hours. A little conservative with that one. It's only about a 9-hour flight now.
That would kind of blow them away, I bet. Cancer will be eradicated. Not yet. I mean, they're making some progress on certain cancers, but still a ways to go.
This one I find great. Homes won't have kitchens anymore. They thought it was because we would use chemical formulas and wouldn't need to cook, but instead we just have everything delivered from like central kitchens.
I wonder if they were thinking there would be a lot more already prepared meals that would be ready to go. Like the armies will use those.
Yeah. Oh, you just pull something out of your fridge or freezer, you throw it into some special cooker, and boom, here's an instant turkey dinner.
Yeah, we do that now with microwaves. You can pull out the frozen stuff.
It's a little questionable whether it's all tastes good though.
A couple more of what experts thought 100 years ago and what 2023 would look like. Telepathy will exist. They said we'd even be able to speak with babies via telepathy. No, that one hasn't come through.
And finally, how about a koozie for your kidney? They thought you would have like a beer koozie to keep your internal organs warm.
Like they do surgery?
How about you just wear a coat?
That one's a little weird, but some of these other ones on here, You know, people working a maximum of 4 hours a day. Well, how much talk is there now of a 4-day work week being pushed in a lot of places, and certain countries in the world have been trying it out. So,
Do you think our bosses would go for that?
no. Well, here it is. We've got it for you. The secret to a happy relationship.
According to experts, the trick is called the 5-to-1 ratio. That's the key to keeping everyone happy and satisfied, whether it's a romantic relationship, a friendship, or a professional relationship. So they say basically for every one negative interaction, you need 5 positive ones. And they don't have to be big interactions or gestures. Something even like a smile or a joke could be enough. You just need to make sure you have 5 good things that happen for every one bad thing.
So if you mess up, or you say something you shouldn't say, or you insult, someone, either your partner, somebody you work with, whatever, a friend, you need to make up with it with 5 things. Again, not big gestures. Even just tell them a funny joke that you read on the internet.
Got to get your points back. Now, I was thinking, though, how bad is the bad thing? I feel like if it's a really bad thing, you might need like 10, 20 good things.
Maybe some jewelry involved in there, too. TSA stopped a sequel in the making when it refused to allow a 4-foot boa constrictor onto a plane recently. The serpent, goes by Bartholomew, was allegedly an emotional support animal, showed up at a Tampa International Airport in a carry-on bag last month when his owner tried to put him through the x-ray machine. I don't know if that's necessarily
Did he
healthy.
declare it or not beforehand?
Doesn't sound like it. Service animals are allowed. The Department of Transportation in the U.S. says this refers to dogs trained to help a passenger with a disability. Pets can travel in the cargo hold under certain conditions, but no snakes on the plane.
Well, because I think in Canada it's a lot more restrictive. I know in the States, a lot of people say they have emotional support animals, but they're not actually trained and certified.
Somebody tried to bring a peacock on a plane one time. Can you imagine? Right, if their whole their feathers go wild when they get all riled up and stuff.
Oh, this is my emotional support falcon.
That was
like a
another
bird
thing,
of
too.
prey.
No, I think somebody else actually did that. You laugh. But.
Oh man, how about my emotional support cow, like a mini cow? That could work. Well, firefighters in Australia found a cow wandering through a mall, and it was the second time they had to rescue this cow in 24 hours. Apparently, it got stuck in the mud. They first rescued it Tuesday night when they found it wandering loose through a shopping center in Sydney. They took the cow to the grounds of a university to keep it safe overnight, but then Wednesday morning, they received a call saying it had wandered into a dam on the campus of the university and got stuck in the mud.
So this cow, I tell you, it's just, it wants to roam loose, man.
He's up for adventure.
Oh,
let him live his life.
It's like the littlest hobo, but instead of being a dog, it's a cow.
Except the littlest hobo helped people get out of sticky situations. This cow just keeps getting into them.
Bringing people together. Hey, how about this? Thor, an 8-year-old walrus, has been, up and down the British coast recently, migrating back north. First spotted in the Netherlands in November, 2,000 miles from the Arctic Circle. So later that month, spotted in France. By December, he was spotted along the British coast. On New Year's Eve, he was seen relaxing on the shore in Scarborough, England. The town canceled their fireworks show as to not disturb him. Oh, how nice. Thor is again on the move and expected to travel back to the Arctic.
So is he tagged? Like, do they have a tag on him so they can track him?
Not sure.
You know how they do that with sharks and stuff?
Sounds like he was on, a Christmas vacation and just traveling around a little bit.
Just gotta go visit all the family.
Seeing the sights.
And finally, a video is going viral because a wild deer decided to break through the window of a butcher shop in Minnesota.
Here we are, January the 12th today. So if you're still thinking, man, I need to get a calendar, the old calendars are outdated. Well, here's a way to save a couple dollars if you haven't tossed your 2022 calendar just yet.
You can just wait a decade until 2033. Now, obviously, the days of the week, they change year to year. So January 5th was a Wednesday last year in 2022. It's a Thursday this year. But the same dates do eventually come back around and line up. So you'll be able to use your 2022 calendar again if you just hang on to it for 10 years.
That's all we need to do for people that are quote-unquote collectors. Now, one more thing to collect. Calendars tend to line up every 6 years or 11 years. The exception is leap years, when then it takes 28. So calendars for 2024, which is a leap year, they won't be usable again until 2052.
Now, there is a catch, though. Some of the holidays won't line up. And I bet you there's also going to be some holidays that don't exist that have been added to the calendar since then. So this year, you can reuse a calendar from 2017, 2006, 1995, or 1933. You know, if you still have got one of those kicking around.
You want to save a couple dollars? Hang on to those calendars. So last night, I went to bed at the normal time that I usually go to bed. My wife was working on a project, though, so she was on her computer, stayed up a little bit later. But then when she came into the room, I don't know, maybe an hour later, I woke up, and it's probably good I did, because I was having an insanely bizarre dream.
Okay.
So I was in my car. I called Mike Renier from my vehicle, my SUV, not like some weird car. And I was asking about the location of a haunted house or some sort of haunted location or museum or something, because I wanted to go and see it. I'm not entirely sure if this was in Chatham-Kent or not, but I went there and there was no one else there. It was kind of like a warehouse kind of thing.
Okay, so like more, not a haunted house, but like a location that has rumored to be haunted.
So I went inside this place. There was nobody in it, but the door was open. I was like, okay. I come out. There was a tour bus parked beside my vehicle. Like, and a definite tour bus, like not a school bus.
Like a big coach bus.
Like black. I can still see it in my head. No one was coming out of it, though, but people were in it. I'm like, well, that's weird. In my head, I remember thinking, I get in my vehicle, I start driving, and something's hitting me. There was a balloon, a helium balloon in my vehicle, like tied like with a rope down to like, you know how there's like, they put those sandbags or whatever on the bottom?
Yeah.
So they don't float off.
The little weights.
And it said, have a nice day. It was like one of those Mylar, like silver balloons. And I was like, that's weird. And I was going to chuck it out the window. But then the next thing in my dream, I was in somewhere, like a rough area. It wasn't the greatest area. Again, I don't think it was Chatham. It felt like a city, a bigger city. And I was on some side street. And then I turned my head to the right. And there was a guy with a gun. He was shooting at somebody else. And so he turned and looked at me. I hit the gas and peeled it. I actually remember squealing the tires in my dream. And then I woke up. What is going on in my brain?
I wonder, so the balloon hitting you, well, like, was that the dog nudging you or your wife?
No.
Nudging you?
I don't think so. No, she doesn't wake me up when she comes into bed.
No, not that she woke you up, but just like the movement and you got nudged?
No, we have a king-size bed, so it's nice. Lots of space. I have no idea. I mean, I was reading about the possible privatization of healthcare in Canada, especially Ontario, before I went to sleep, which is very scary. So I don't know if that was connected into...
What does that have to do with people shooting each other in a haunted building and tour buses?
What?
I feel like you should Google some of these things. I bet you there's like symbolism.
There was a major disruption for planes in the U.S. yesterday for several hours. The FAA might know now what caused them to ground every plane yesterday for the first time since 9/11. They think one corrupted file may be to blame.
So they issued a nationwide order around 7:30 yesterday that pretty much stopped all flights from taking off. And it was delayed until about 9 a.m., but people immediately thought it's a cyber attack. But the White House says they don't think it was.
We're not prepared to rule that out. There hasn't been any indication of that. FBI has spoken to this, and of course, FAA is looking closely at that as well as they work to see exactly what was going on inside the files that were in this system leading to this irregularity. So again, what I would say is there is no direct indication of any kind of external or nefarious activity, but we're not yet prepared to rule that out.
Now, planes were taking off again about an hour or two later, but as you can imagine, it caused a massive backlog because everything had to get pushed back.
Yeah, so a number of flights did get canceled, but more than 10,000 flights were delayed. So they're hoping to sort of catch things back up today. I know someone that was flying yesterday, and their first flight was delayed about an hour, and then their second flight was about an hour and a half. Now, they made up some of that time in the air, so it wasn't too bad. But
if you were flying later in the day, you probably ended up being one of those ones that were canceled. Now, here's a couple of things that they say to think about with their system. It's very outdated. It's been around since 1947. Used to be phone-based. Now it's all online. Politicians calling for an overhaul of that, and they're saying, yeah, it's the right time to talk about it. And you may not have known this. Apparently in Canada, we had some issues of our own.
Yeah, the system here went down for a few hours, but they have a backup system in place that it kicked over to, and it worked, so it didn't cause any delays. Now, they've already ruled out a cyber attack, and they don't think it was related to the U.S. outage, but the UK also had an issue with its mail service.
Yeah, they call it a cyber incident. Still not clear on what happened. They said it caused minor delays with mail being delivered overseas. Not clear if all of this is related, but they're all saying it's not.
Now, because I knew people would be like, oh, they're all related. And in my mind, I instantly think maybe they are related because they all use the same program, but from the same company.
Or similar.
And they all got an update at the same time yesterday with the corrupted file.
And boom, it affects everyone. So over the last few months, you and I have been sick. On and off, right? With that upper respiratory thing, coughing,
sinuses,
congestion kind of stuff. Apparently, there might have been a solution that we should have tried, and I never even thought of doing this.
Yeah, this is making the rounds online, and apparently it involves pressing a potato against your foot. The video has gone viral on TikTok, and this woman shares her full remedy. She explains it all.
This remedy really works, so hear me out. Get a potato, cut it in half, get 2 slices out of it, put it beneath each foot, and cover it with a sock overnight. The next morning, when you remove the sock, you're going to see an imprint on the bottom of the foot, which is totally fine. And then you're going to see the potato slices, which are disgustingly dark. That's because the toxins are removed, but your child feels so much better.
Now, she insists you'll feel a lot better. And maybe there's something to it. I mean, when you think about placebo effect, well, in your mind, you think it's working, and your brain takes over, and the brain's a powerful thing.
Yeah, because doctors say this isn't going to help with your flu symptoms, and nutritionists say the reason the potato is turning black is because it's oxidizing, not because it's pulling toxins out of your body. But as you said, the placebo effect is real. If you think this is going to help you, then it might.
It's not a lie, if you believe it. I mean, do any of these things, you put Vicks on your feet and put socks on.
That's one I've tried. And, sometimes I do feel better, like I can breathe better.
My wife found one that involved honey and red onions. And you chop up the red onions and you soak them for 24 hours in the honey and you leave that in the mason jar. And you take like a tablespoon of it. I swear I felt a lot better the first time I took it. And it just it supposedly breaks up everything in there so that you can get rid of stuff. Seemed to work for me. Maybe it won't work for you. But there's a lot of that. I mean, my mom used to put Vicks in boiling water and then a tea towel. And you'd have to put your head over that. You'd scald your face, of course. But
what's the other one I've heard of? They say to cut an onion in half and then leave it out in your room. And it absorbs all the
red onion
germs.
Specifically. Supposedly, there's all these antioxidant things with red onion. And who knows? I mean, with the fact that you go to a drugstore now, good luck finding any meds half the time. And kids' meds, they keep them behind the counter and then they laugh at you when you go and ask. Oh, we don't have any of those. So I get why people are trying potatoes and onions and honey and things on your feet.
You've been listening to Dave and Cheryl's Favorite Moments of the Week.